If you rush to put your surplus materials out for sale, you are likely missing an opportunity to manage your resources responsibly. Investment recovery professionals champion a strategy called the 7 R's. It's a way to evaluate all of the options you have to dispose of surplus materials ethically and responsibly. Today, we're going to be covering the 7 R's. My guests today are Jaco Saaiman and Kevin Graham. They're with Material Management Resources. Material Management Resources is a full-service investment recovery firm serving a variety of industries, including oil and gas and utilities. And investment recovery is more than an afterthought. It can become a strategic advantage and a differentiator if it's handled properly. This podcast is about how you and your company can leverage investment recovery in your projects. Kevin and Jaco, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Candace.
You bet. It's really fun for us to be together today, and I'm excited. Our topic today is the 7 R's. Kevin, do you mind giving us the headlines? What are the 7 R's?
Reuse, recondition, return, resell, reclaim, recycle, and remove.
So can we take them a couple at a time, do you suppose? Let's start with the first couple.
Okay. The first one's reuse. That's, you've got project left over, you use it on the next project. You're not any additional capital outlay. You've got all the paperwork and everything on it, and you can just reuse it. To recondition is like a motor or a valve that has been in service for a while and goes and is rebuilt.
Okay, cool. So we've got 2 more that we want to talk about. Jaco, can you bring us the return and resell?
Yes, so Kevin used the example of a project. So if you have leftovers at the end of the project and you weren't able to reuse it, you can go back to the vendor that it was purchased from and see if they have a return policy or a restocking fee.
Wow.
Or however they negotiated that. And the next one is resell, which is what Material Management Resources handle most of the time, is where they find an asset, whether it's used or new, and they can't reuse it or recondition it or return it. Mm-hmm. And we would go on the open market and market it and try and sell it.
Okay, and it seems to me they're all connected, and they seem to be sequenced in an order, because the way that you're explaining them, you go from one point to the next point to the next point. That's very interesting. So, Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about reclaim and recycle?
Well, that's like with molecules, where you're taking chemicals. We had some hydrochloric acid that had sat in the tank for several years and had picked up some iron content, but they were able to reclaim that and use that in sewage treatment. Recycle is scrap metal bins. We manage several hundred scrap metal bins that taking in for remelt for the steel and the metal, or for plastics or other molecules, well, like the hydrochloric acid.
Jaco, the last one is remove. So it seems like you've gone down a good list. Are we going to reuse it? Are we going to resell it? And now talk to me about the remove part.
Right, and that's exactly as you said. So you've gone sequentially from what we would consider the best options to the least favorable option. Still a good option, but you would take the items, and if you can't recycle it, you would take and remove it from the facility, i.e. landfills, or an example like that.
Yeah, and I've heard you guys talk a lot about the fact that a very big consideration for all the companies that you work with is to avoid that.
That's always the goal.
Well, and it's not just a popular topic in your world, it's a big mission of your company to help with that. Do all the 7 R's apply to all projects that you work on?
Well, no, as Jaco mentioned, the idea is you get the highest up and when the most return. So the farther down the list you move, the less return you're getting on your money.
Okay.
So
And so
typically,
your objective is always to get the highest return for your client.
correct.
Of
I
course.
see.
Client putting valves in a scrap bin, and they can go to a remanufacturer and be rebuilt and put new seals in, and worth considerably more than they are in scrap steel. So we see valves several times a month, and that's one of the big ones. Yeah.
Can you give me a sense of comparison? So on a particular job, we got a bunch of valves in a scrap bin, and compared to what they would have gotten for the scrap, what would they get for the valves if they were reused or resold?
Minimum 3 times,
Wow.
can be 10 or 20 times, depending on the condition of the valves
Okay.
and the price of steel. Right now, steel's less than 5 cents a pound.
Right. So the futures in the market really kind of dictate that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I see. Very good. So you guys are experts in this field, and are there any of the 7 R's that you guys work on more often than others?
Yeah, so I would say the main 2 that we deal with most often is resell and recycle. So the main function for us would be is to resell it. So what we would do, our clients will come in and ask, we have this particular item, what do you think we can do with it? And we'll go through all the 7 R's, but most of the time they've already done the reuse or return or recondition. And so typically when it comes to us, it is at the resale phase. And we would see what the equipment is. If it's necessary, we'd go out and inventory. If additional information
on site, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. So we would go and if it's valves, we would go look at the condition of the valves and look at the tags and what the different types are. If it's a ball valve or a check valve or gate valve, etc. We come back here and, like I said, do the inventory and then look at all pictures, because not all the pictures you take out in the field necessarily goes back and goes on the website. Some of it.
Painfully familiar with that.
You try to take a broad overview so that the buyers looking on the website can get a full view of what is out there, kind of get the bird's eye view of it, and then you'll go maybe smaller pictures and tag pictures and
show the quality of it or the
correct.
Exact type of thing that you're trying to
and
display.
So once that is all done, we'll upload and we'll market it via our website and our distribution list. So that's the resale part of it. Kevin touched on the recycle. We manage scrap contracts for some of our vendors, for some of our clients, and so we deal with the management of bins and bin movements quite frequently in the refineries. You get that out in the field. Out in the field, a lot of the times they have almost their own scrap laydown yard. And so scrap vendors would come on site and they would bring their shear and they'll chop it up to smaller pieces and load it into an end dump and take it off to their yard and further process it. And so those 2 take up the majority of our time. We do on occasion, but not often, assist with the reuse and the recondition. Kevin's dealt with the reclaim more than I have, but so for the most part, I would say we deal with all of them, but they have most definitely resell and recycle.
What's the benefit of the marketplace that you guys have created, of working with you? I heard that you take a really holistic approach to working with your clients. Can you explain that a little bit more, Kevin?
Well, we've been doing this since '94. We've got a lot of buyers in the industries for the type of material we sell. We handle reaching out to them. We'll post it on websites, send emails, but do phone follow-ups and schedule site visits for buyers that need to see it. Then we accumulate all of the bids that come in, recap them, present it back to the client. We're not doing an unreserved auction. It's the client has the rights to refuse any and all bids on any of the stuff we do.
Nice.
And then once we get the approvals to move forward, we'll produce all the documents that are required For some of our clients, we have power of attorneys and we actually sign the agreements.
Wow.
Others, they've designated someone, and usually to start with, the client signs on their own, but after they've let us handle it for a while, we've already got all the approvals up front, and we use DocuSign and collect the signatures and maintain the files, and it goes all the way through audit. So
I've heard you guys talk about audit jail. I think that's
Well-
a place nobody really wants to go.
yeah, with the procurement and the business lines, they a lot of times they're afraid of the auditors, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Some of our clients have had numerous terminations because of improperly handled disposals.
I can imagine that would be true. So, which of the 7 R's would create the most problem for a client if it wasn't handled out of the gate properly?
Well, the removal is where particularly the oil and gas clients in refineries and things of that nature, you can have hazardous things. And if you don't properly handle hazardous material, you're not just talking about audit jail, you're talking about real jail. And serious fines and things like Superfund. And so they've really got to pay attention to what they're dealing with. Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, or RCRA, is the laws, the book's about yay thick, and the guidance on the book is about yay thick, and it's updated every year. And it says stuff like, how many parts per million of arsenic you can have, or how much lead you can have on site. And one of our clients had basically it was lead pellets that they'd used as weights for something, and were just going to dispose of them. But it was above the threshold for lead, and it would have put them as a large quantity generator for hazardous material. So able to help them with that and keep them from getting into a more strenuous level with the EPA on reporting and things of that nature. So that remove is, you can lose money on the others by not handling properly, but if you don't do the removal and disposal properly, somebody's going to get in big trouble.
Right. Well, and it's that whole landfill avoidance thing that everyone is trying to accomplish, I would imagine, and that can improper removal. I would imagine there's some good stories about that. Jaco, I kind of caught that you might have a story or two in mind. Would you mind sharing with us?
Yes. So we were working on a large gas plant demo in Alabama, and in addition to the scrap material that they removed, or the equipment, they removed the equipment first, and as the large equipment was removed out of the facility, they started cutting up the scrap, and all the I-beams and racks for the power cables and gas lines and everything else. They kind of got to the back end of the project, or the not almost to the finish, but almost there, I should say. And they realized that they still had all the concrete pads and concrete road around the facility. And so the vessels would sit on concrete pads that sometimes are 7 feet depending on how big of a vessel and how much weight it has to take. And so once the vessels were removed and the pumps were removed, they realized that there was still a bunch of concrete that they needed to remove, because if memory serves me correct, they had to get everything removed to below 3 feet below grade, and then backfill it up with natural soil was the requirement for that facility. And so they got a quote to remove the concrete and pay for disposal. And we were able to find not a high value necessarily for the customer, but we found a company that would take the concrete at $1 a yard, which doesn't seem significant, because at the end of the day they made maybe about $20,000 on the removal, which means the company removed almost 20,000 yards of concrete, which equated to, in this particular case, to about roughly 2,300 truckloads.
Wow.
It's a tremendous amount.
Sounds like 3 or 4 miles on Beltway 8 to me.
It can be. So they removed a tremendous amount of concrete. But at the end of the day, what the client was most pleased about is, since somebody was paying them to take that, they didn't have to take money out of their project.
Right.
And it saved them close to $700,000. So it wasn't a necessarily a huge sale, but the cost savings was tremendous on this one. And so that's one of those success stories to where you didn't sell it for the top dollar, but there was so much benefit on the backside of that. It didn't have to go into a landfill, so your sustainability. They didn't have to pay for it, so there were more benefits on it than not. And so at the end of the day, that was probably one of the more memorable success stories that we've had.
That's really
out of a project.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and it's, you just didn't take the first solution that could have been offered. You tried to find a way to
Absolutely.
make it work for the client creatively, which is awesome. I know that you guys work with both large refineries and utilities and smaller companies too. Can you think of a time when paying attention to one of the particular 7 R's was a game changer for a company?
Yeah, so other examples that we have of items that clients don't necessarily realize is one that's extremely common is tubing. So you have 2 3/8, 2 7/8, and 3 1/2 are your most common tubing that producers use to run down the well. At a certain point, when they lose 50% of the wall thickness, they're considered red band, and nobody can, or regulations, can put them back down in the hole. And so they will be classified as red band. A lot of them deem them as scrap, but there's a value higher than scrap that we found, particularly in the agricultural market, in ranching and farming, and so people will take the 2 7/8 and the 2 3/8, and they'll build fencing.
Oh, sure.
So they'll wrap their entire ranch around with the 2 7/8 or the 2 3/8 tubing. In the dairy industry, we've seen them build a lot of corrals to maneuver their cows around. And the other one is in the vineyards. A lot of them will use them as posts at the end, and just run their wires and periodically put another one in there and have their grapes grow up on that one. Same with sucker rods. They'll use sucker rods when they run fencing or building the corrals. Another example is I've seen companies take larger diameter line pipe, and they'll cut them in half and cap them on the sides, grind the edges smooth, just go put in there, put cow feed in there.
It becomes a trough.
It becomes a trough. Cow, you can have strong cows, but they're generally not going to chew through it.
No.
They're probably not going to toss it around and play with it. So, there's a bunch of stuff that people will use and convert. And so those would be examples of material not going for scrap and actually is a higher value than what you would have just arbitrarily said, all right, well, this is scrap, let's go ahead and scrap it. So a lot of the times that's where they come to the realization, it's like, all right, well, let's just not scrap it, let's give it a shot and see what the open market presents. And we found that market is doing well, has been for several years. And so that's a good example. If you introduce new clients to investment recovery, they're always kind of surprised when you tell them about that particular opportunity.
Yeah. The thing that strikes me is the level of creativity that's involved in looking at something that had one use at one time. And then it sounds like you guys have a network of people that you've worked with that can use the things in a different way, and that you give a lot of thought to what other uses for a certain item might be as well.
Yeah, there's one just thought of that It's also agricultural related, but it's very interesting. It caught my own eye one day is the rollers that they use to sweep the roads with.
Yeah.
Gentleman took it off, planted a post, bound it to the post, and that's what his cattle uses to scratch themselves, or horses. It's like a giant cat scratcher for the livestock.
That is hysterical.
That was a funny one that I've seen.
That's great.
So yeah, there's some common ones, and then there's some real interesting one. I would consider that one pretty interesting.
I remember you guys telling a story about some thing that was used with a different company, transforming itself into a backstop.
Yeah, that's the tubing that they're using for fencing. They can use the same thing to build backstops and
whatever.
Fences and stuff around ball fields.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Kevin, can you tell us where the 7Rs came from?
Well, in the 80s, a group of large corporations got together and formed a group called the Investment Recovery Association that was managers of surplus assets, and they started meeting and training. And MMR actually joined the group in '96, but Jaco and I have both received their certification. It's called the Certified Manager of Investment Recovery, but the 7Rs are part of the curriculum that they teach and work through for, it's a corporate group that works and helps each other on how to increase the return on surplus assets.
I love the collaborative nature of that. And Jaco, you were saying about how the sequence of the 7Rs, really thinking it through and paying attention to that, can become a strategic advantage for a company. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, Candace. So what we would advise to our clients as far as the sequence is, if you, in your process currently, are just, for example, looking at the scrap material, and the process is just to, if there's metal, goes in the bin. We would say just take a step back and look at the 7Rs, and it may take a little bit more effort, but the reward definitely is there, to where if you arbitrarily just threw stuff in the recycle bin, you go, well, maybe we could have reused it. Maybe there's an opportunity to recondition it, return it, resell it. So there's several steps before you basically jump to the second to last step, which is a really good step, don't get me wrong, it is. But there were several opportunities before where you could have potentially increased your return on the assets that you're disposing of.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like from some of the answers that you've given and from what I know about the company, that you guys take a lot of the effort out of it, that all they need to do is stop long enough to ask for your help?
That's definitely what we're here for. We're here to help.
And identify the asset.
All they need to know is what they've got, and then you're ready to rock and roll.
What we can sell for them. Give us approval to sell it, and we'll take care of the rest.
Love it. We've talked about a lot here, and all focused on the 7R. You've told some really wonderful stories, and I appreciate you sharing your expertise. I'd like to sum up what we've talked about today. First of all, the higher you are on the list of 7Rs, the more ROI you're going to get. MMR has a community of buyers who are ready to buy what needs to go to market. And if any of this seems daunting to you, give MMR a call, because I'm pretty sure they can help.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We want to thank our guests, Kevin and Jaco, for sharing their time and expertise today. We also want to acknowledge the Investment Recovery Association for their work in developing the 7Rs. You can find out more about them online by visiting invrecovery.org. To learn more about material management resources and how we can help you responsibly handle surplus materials, visit us online at materialmg.com.